up here to the high ground. We can shoot at this expansion. And here comes Mutalisks. Oh, my guys are going to get the medevac. No. And so let me just bring up the unit health. We see that in 2 shots, actually I will happily back that up. Let's just look at these Mutalisk health. So look at this Mutalisk gets shot. And then it gets shot again, and it's like about to die. It has 14 health. Oh, Thor is really the hard counter to Mutalisks. So here come a bunch of Mutalisks. And yeah, it kills 1 right away. So notice that this is just 4 Mutalisks. This health on the Thor is dropping pretty fast. It's 3 Mutalisks. These 3 Mutalisks will actually be able to finish it off, even when, you know, this one does die. Not the biggest loss in the world for Zerg. And these Mutalisks are super versatile. I mean, they fly, first of all, so you can just do a lot of good killing with these Mutalisks. And of course, they can attack the dropship once they lift off, so suddenly Thor drops become super, super dangerous. So this is why Thors do not hard counter Mutalisks. Notice now, what is Muslim's option? Well, he has to build more Thors. He's already built 3 Thors. This 3rd one's about to pop out. One of them's already dead. And then there's a 4th one queued up. Notice how broke Muslim is. He hasn't even begun getting an upgrade. He's also getting these turrets to help deal with Mutalisks because, again, Thor's very immobile. And if we go to the unit counting station, notice how Terran pretty much has 4 Marines and Thors. It's just Thors. And interestingly, we are going to see in this production tab that more Mutalisks are coming. Oh, it seems so counterintuitive. And I mean, a lot of players say, well, if you saw Thors, why did you make any Mutalisks? And we're going to see a little bit more of that in a while. But Sen pretty much is going to be now doing the usual thing. He's going to be spawning more larvae. He's going to be massing up Mutalisks. He's slowly building up money. And this is a pretty damn good transition in the mid-game to just get a bunch of Mutalisks, pin your opponent back into his base. He doesn't really want to leave because Mutalisks will harass at any angle. So then you have the opportunity to expand a bit. It's very Starcraft 1-esque, you know, because in the good old B-dub, players did this pretty much every game against Terran. They'd get Mutalisks, and then they would harass, and Terran would not be able to attack, so they'd be defending most of the time, and then that would be that. Whoa, sorry, I almost knocked. It's an earthquake here. But the thing is, in Brood War, people seem to think that it was the micro of the Mutalisks that made them good, as opposed to the existence of a fast air unit that did some damage to ground that was good. Because Mutalisk Micro didn't even really exist, even back in like 2006, 2007. There still were a lot of players who just control group 12 Mutalisks and didn't know how to cluster them properly and do all these fancy micro tricks. So it literally just was Mutalisks flying around, and Terran still had to build turrets. They still had to not move out with their Medic Marine. If they did, they still would lose to Mutazergling. Same sort of system works here in StarCraft 2. We get the Mutalisks out. He doesn't really want to attack. Good shape. We're in great shape. And then, once again, these Thors that everyone say, quote-unquote, hard counters Mutalisks, everyone just seems to be ignoring the fact that these Thors cost tons of money, tons of gas. They eat up all the time for the factory to build anything else useful. And I mean, look at this unit mix for Muslim. He has these 4 Marines at his front. He's actually morphing a planetary fortress at his natural instead of an engineering bay because he wants to have all these dropships available to do other stuff. And notice how Sen is way far ahead in the food already. He's already at 81 food, and Muslim's at 62 food. And there really hasn't been amazing plays done by Sen. And of course, look, the Thors land, do some serious damage to the Mutalisks. And it's looking pretty good for Muslim if you over-focus on this hard counter BS. And of course, Sen hasn't been getting an upgrade, but there's nothing wrong with getting a carapace upgrade, because it is 4 shots by the Thor. So plenty of damage can be absorbed that way. Zergling's poking up here, going to try to do damage to these Medic Marine, but of course there's a planetary fortress there, and Zergling's generally not good against that. So of course, very standard tactic that we see in Brood War a lot, running Zerglings into Terran main, generally being a badass. So, of course, Sen takes this as an opportunity to expand. He has his Mutalisks rushing over here. Look at this, just really nice harassment attacking over here. And over here at the expansion, not many SCVs left after this harassment. Just good stuff. Not any of this Roach Hydra junk that we do on the US server. No, straight up Mutalisk-oriented Asia style. And he's getting a Roach Warren now. I think this is a great eventual transition after you, say, get an expansion up and running, because you have plenty of time to do this as Zerg. There's no reason to rush into the Roaches. However, I do just want to say, For the record, roaches are a good follow-up if you see your opponent getting a reasonable number of Thors. Thors aren't the best unit against roaches. So of course that's part of the reason why Muslim is getting these Marauders here. Just because they're very, very strong against roaches. And it looks like he's transitioning into a big ground army. And Sen continuing to expand. He's going to be using his map control with just Ling Mutalisk. Just Ling Mutalisk. It's Ling Mutalisk into Roach. And look at this beautiful Overlord placement here. Notice that all these form a nice big ring. I mean, even look at the mini-map on the Sen cam. Notice how he's spreading out. And I actually want to note that. Let's actually back up a few time steps. So here is currently the Sen cam. I'm going to go over here to this uninteresting piece of land, and let's just look at the mini-map. Notice that Sen is really far back with all of his stuff. He hasn't really moved anything forward yet. Really, he wants more map control with these Mutalisks and these Zerglings. He wants to have a little bit more presence, and once he has just like a lot of units and his Overlords aren't in immediate danger, watch how he's going to be spreading them out. I mean, again, as we go to this uninteresting piece of land, look at on the mini-map, all these Overlords starting to spread out now. Sen has complete and total vision of what's going on. And thanks to Mutalisks and Zerglings, he can cover everything super, super easily. What a badass Sen be. He's getting more Mutalisks, more and more Mutalisks. He's getting speed, but I want you to note that this is 3 Thors being dropped right here. Notice that it is just Mutalisks. Going to the unit counting station, that is 18 Mutalisks. And I'm going to hold my Alt button and just note how much damage these Mutalisks are doing right now to these Thors. You do have to tell the Mutalisks to attack the Thors, otherwise they will value the Medivacs first and foremost. Wait, was that 4 Thors being dropped? That may have been 4 Thors. Yeah, 4 Thors, even better as an example. So, I mean, money-wise, 4 Thors, that's like 1,200. And yeah, the Mutalisk, a little bit more expensive at 1,800, 1,800. But, I mean, we can clearly see that, I mean, Muslim has been making a lot of Thors out of this factory, and it still is not quite enough. And what happens if, you know, you see Zerg going mass Mutalisk and you've already committed to Thors? Well, you know, you make some more Thors, and that seems reasonable. I mean, Mutalisks die very quickly to Thors, in theory. And the big danger now is, if you try to reinforce your Thors with more Thors, then you have this one-dimensional army. You might have, like, 3 Hellions, those 4 Marines you made at the start of the game, and, like, 7 Thors. And you'll note that, Sen already had that Roach Warren finished with the speed researching. No Roaches yet, but speed researching. Again, notice this principle we mentioned right at the start. Get research for units that you might build. And this isn't like a general rule or something. You know, you shouldn't, because then you should be like, well, I might build any unit. Let me get all the upgrades. What I mean is, when you're thinking about a rush that you need to hold off, or a timing attack that you need to hold off, think less about the unit that you need, and more about the upgrade for the unit that you need. Because that's a big mistake I think a lot of players make in their just learning process. You know, they'll suffer an early Zealot rush, or I shouldn't even say a Zealot rush, just like a Zealot attack. Like, let's say Zealots come out with like 10 to 12 Zealots, and they just try to do a push with those. Not super fast, but eventually. So what will the Zerg player do? Well, he'll start making Zerglings, because he wants to be prepared for this attack. What if the attack never comes? Well, you have all these useless Zerglings. That's not good. Well, if the attack does come, slow Zerglings are not that good against Zealots. But speed Zerglings are a lot better against Zealots, because the speed Zerglings wrap around the Zealots faster. So then the Zerglings have a big concave instead of the Zealots. Really, really, really good upgrade. So most good players get Zergling speed without actually making Zerglings. And this principle you use a lot. So when Sen looks at the fact that Thors are being made, he will say, okay, well, I'm going to make Mutalisks at the outset, because he'll really need 6 or 7 Thors if he really wants to crush my Mutalisk numbers. And then, if he sees 6 or 7 Thors coming out the front, he just makes a bunch of Roaches. Because again, look at this minimap. Look at this beautiful minimap by Sen. He has the whole minimap covered. Look at this big ring of vision for Sen. Complete and total control. And he will happily churn out some Roaches should he see anything popping out this front door. What a baller Sen be. And of course, Muslim is in a horrific position and shortly GG's. So, nice timing by me, pausing right before any of that happened. But I mean, even before this Thor drop happened, I mean, Muslim looks like he's in a theoretically good position. He's getting all these barracks up. He's getting tanks. Does he have siege mode? Well, not yet. He hasn't, begun upgrading. Oh, no, he has +1. Great. But Zerg has another base done and is getting his gold up. Just brilliant abuse of Mutalisks by Sen. And some key components to what I'm seeing. He gets the Zergling speed. Doesn't make a ton of Zerglings. But he does get the Zergling speed. And then after that, when he gets Mutalisks and expands, while he's getting Mutalisks, he makes tons of drones. Tons and tons and tons and tons of drones. And then he makes lots of Mutalisks, and then he expands again. And then with his Zerglings, he expands again. I think that third base is only because he was pretty confident that his opponent really couldn't do any aggression. I mean, he saw a Thor drop and killed the Thor drop. Big investment for the Muslim, just down the tube. So he's looking like he's in good shape. And that, honestly, is, I think, a very important lesson to all you aspiring Zerg players out there. It's less of a big deal for